Roadsides are a unique and often difficult growing environment for turf grasses. As you will soon learn, establishment is an incredibly important moment in the life of a turf stand on a roadside. Soil preparation is essential for a successful establishment, regardless if you are using seed or sod. This module will cover the fundamentals of soil preparation that precedes establishment on roadsides. Take a moment to review the learning objectives for this module. These are the main takeaways, or things you should be able to do at the conclusion of this module. In Modules 4 and 5, you will learn about establishing a roadside via seeding and sodding. Establishment is likely the most important practice in ensuring a healthy turf stand. Soil preparation is important in establishment because it is the best opportunity to correct any minor adverse site conditions such as soil compaction that would otherwise reduce the likelihood of a successful establishment. Soil preparation is an essential step in establishment, regardless of if you are using seed or sod. We will work through the steps in the soil preparation process. The 6 primary steps listed include monitoring the site for current conditions, conducting a soil test, removing existing residue, conducting any necessary soil grading and/or cultivation, smoothing the soil surface, and finally, establishing the turf. Monitoring the site is the first step in soil preparation. At this point, you should have already worked with your local and state governments to obtain the required permits for construction of the site. You should also have called the local utility companies to mark all underground cables and gas lines and ensure during the initial visit that this was done properly. Site monitoring includes an in-person evaluation to scout for current conditions that will affect the soil preparation and establishment processes. Something that should be quickly obvious during the site visit is the ease of accessibility for your crew and their equipment. Are there obstructions such as curbs, culverts, utility poles, signposts, or fencing? The amount of slope present will determine not only vehicle use but also the use of erosion control measures. The types and amounts of existing vegetation will affect your residue removal procedures. We will discuss these in more detail shortly. The types of existing vegetation can also be an indication of adverse site conditions. For example, cattails are an indication of excessive moisture and drainage issues, which may require additional grading. In some cases, such as an urban roadside, shade or the presence of trees in their roots will negatively affect soil preparation and the following establishment of the turf grasses. You will also want to pay particular attention to the observable soil conditions. Is it difficult to insert a soil probe into the soil? Considering recent local weather, how dry is the soil? You should take advantage of site monitoring by conducting a soil test before establishment. Soil testing is an essential part of any turf maintenance plan. It is the only way to know the current nutrient status of your soil. A soil that is deficient in one or more nutrients will negatively affect turf establishment and overall growth and will need supplementary additions of fertilizer. Nutrients that are sufficient in concentration do not need to be applied, so the soil test may save money and limit the potential damage to the environment from unnecessary fertilizer applications. In addition to learning about the nutrient status of your soil testing is also excellent for learning about soil physical properties. 2 important soil physical properties include soil texture and percent organic matter. Soil texture refers to the amount of sand, silt, clay, and organic matter of a soil and is important for both soil preparation and management of the turfgrass area after establishment. Coarse textured soils have higher amounts of sand and typically have faster infiltration and drainage rates, whereas fine textured soils have higher amounts of clay or silt and likely have lower infiltration and drainage rates. Uncovered soils with slower water infiltration rates can be more prone to soil erosion. Knowing a soil's texture can also tell you how likely it is to compact from traffic, as finer textured soils are more likely to be compacted compared to coarser textured soils. At the end of this presentation, we will invite you to read the linked extension publication titled Soil Testing for Lawns. It will cover the soil sampling and interpretation of test results in more detail. but we will take a moment to briefly discuss the most important steps now. Using a small shovel or soil probe, sample to a 3-inch depth. You will want to remove batch or plant material from each sample, as this will affect the soil testing laboratory's analysis of the sample. If the area to be sampled has distinct growing environments or severe changes in slope, divide the soil sampling areas of your site into zones of similar slope. Slope affects the soil texture and color, which will ultimately affect its nutrient levels. Each zone that you determine to be unique should include a representative composite sample. You will want to collect approximately 10 to 15 samples to make a good representative composite sample for each zone. Each testing laboratory has their own sample handling instructions. Consult with the soil testing laboratory to ensure that you can receive your soil sample analyses as quickly as possible. The University of Minnesota Soil Testing Laboratory has soil sampling and handling instructions listed on their website. The website also has a mailing address to send samples to the University of Minnesota Soil Testing Laboratory. Obtaining the soil testing results from the laboratory will vary based on time of year, but you should plan on at least a few weeks before receiving the soil test results. Displayed on your screen is an example soil test report conducted on soil samples obtained from a lawn. Take a moment to review this report. Keep in mind that each soil testing laboratory may have a different way of presenting this information. However, laboratories will contain the following information: percent organic matter, amount of soluble salts, soil pH, and concentration of soil phosphorus and potassium. You will also likely find an interpretation of the soil test results or recommendations by the soil testing laboratory based on the results. Keep in mind that the soil test report will not include recommendations for the amount of nitrogen to apply. We will discuss this later in Module 8, which covers turf fertilization. This ends Part 1 of this presentation. Continue to Part 2 to continue watching.